Now that the Broncos have made their pick, let's go to Adam Schefter for more.
This guy was a beast at the combine. No other rookie pumped out more reps on the bench than he did. One scout told me the whole room of players waiting their turn were on their feet cheering him on. He blasted through 20, didn't show signs of slowing down at 30, and finished with just over 40 reps under his belt. Coaches came away impressed with his level of effort. The bench press is a good test of endurance, and he showed his ability to perform at a high level without slowing down. If he can translate what he did in the weight room to the field, he'll have an immediate impact on the team.
The Buccaneers are now on the clock. The Colts are now on the clock. The Texans are now on the clock. Texans have spanned the globe, and they've decided on Wolf.
He's a durable lineman who set a team record for consecutive starts, never missing a game throughout a decorated 4-year college career. Ross Tucker praised his footwork leading up to the combine, where he did not disappoint, solidifying his position as the draft's top offensive line prospect. He has the potential to be the cornerstone of this offensive line for years to come and should provide consistent protection for a franchise quarterback. This is a great pick.
The Jaguars have made their pick. Adam, what can you tell us about him?
Every GM I've talked to has told me that their eyes lit up every time they watch film on this guy. He was such an offensive weapon in college that he often saw a team's number 1 and number 2 cornerbacks line up against him, and he routinely dominated them. Not only is he an outstanding receiver, I've heard from many scouts that he's one of the better blockers they've seen in this draft class, including offensive linemen. He's a guy that's going to get a lot of reps in training camp and a chance to make an immediate difference on this team.
The Patriots are now on the clock. The Packers are now on the clock. The Rams are now on the clock. Adam, what can you tell us about that last pick?
He's always been known as a smart runner, and if you just look at what he did at the All-Star game, you'd see why he gets that recognition. Every time he was handed the ball, there was no indecisiveness as he attacked the gap and didn't waste time reading the blocks. And when the line failed to open up anything, he still found ways to get a few yards. As Matt Miller put it, he may not be the strongest or fastest, but his vision more than makes up for any deficiency. He could very well become an every down back, which is exactly what this team could use.
The Cardinals are now on the clock. All right, team is now off the clock. Adam Schefter, can you tell us about their newest player?
His team had one of the best rushing defenses in college this season, and he's probably the biggest reason why. Teams eventually abandoned the run game altogether after they averaged only 1 to 2 yards per carry in the first half. Among linebackers on the team, he would always lead the point of attack, penetrating the opposing team's offensive line. Every tailback that lined up against him seemed to keep one eye on the handoff and the other searching for him. And usually when they found him, it was too late to react. He's one of the best tacklers to come out in years. Hopefully, he'll get on the field soon and help them stop the run.
The Browns are now on the clock. The Panthers are now on the clock. The Raiders are now on the clock. The 49ers are now on the clock. The Ravens are now on the clock. Okay, so now it's Riley the selection. Adam, what can you tell us?
A consistent performer his entire college career, he went out on a high note in his final game, recording 3 interceptions and being named the player of the game. General managers have been simply drooling over the opportunity to draft him, with one telling me he's as close to a sure thing as there is in this draft. He'll have plenty of opportunity to showcase his coverage skills this season, as he'll likely line up against some of the NFL's most elite wide receivers.
The Saints are now on the clock. The Chargers are now on the clock. The Dolphins are now on the clock. The Titans are now on the clock. The Giants are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock. The Steelers are now on the clock. The Broncos are now on the clock. The Redskins are now on the clock. The Chiefs are now on the clock. Adam, what can you tell us about the Chiefs' newest player?
Like football, rugby's a sport that's played with guys of all shapes and sizes. In his case, he was one of the big guys pushing and pulling blocks in the center of the pitch. He was playing rugby for a university in Australia before he was recruited to transfer and play football for 2 seasons here in America. His first year was spent adjusting to the game, getting used to the different rules and how to play his position properly. The guy even had to adjust how he tackled now that he had to wear pads and a helmet. But his second year is really where we started to see what he could potentially do. He's a physical player at the line of scrimmage. The team was able to pick up a good addition to its line with a bit of an interesting history.
The Texans are now on the clock. The Bills are now on the clock. The Jaguars are now on the clock. The Bears are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock. The Packers are now on the clock. The Rams are now on the clock. The Bengals are now on the clock. The Seahawks are now on the clock.
I see both teams filling out cards. You know what that means? We've got a trade.
The Cardinals are now on the clock. The Vikings are now on the clock. All right, let's go to Adam Schefter, who's got more on this pick.
Once thought of as a top 3 offensive line pick in the draft, a series of poor performances that saw him miss several routine blocks and surrender multiple sacks had most scouts losing interest. Ross Tucker felt that he simply fell into some bad habits with his footwork, citing a lack of focus that sometimes happens when a young kid with talent begins reading his own press clippings and becomes enamored with where he'll land in the NFL. Tucker may have been onto something regarding him reading the press clippings. After seeing reports of his draft stock slipping, he put on a performance at the combine that turned many ahead. Not often are you granted a second chance, and that's exactly what he's received by being drafted. His new team is hoping he'll make the best of it.
The Raiders are now on the clock.
Well, if you're wondering what the delay is, I think we've got a trade coming here.
The 49ers are now on the clock. The Redskins are now on the clock. The Seahawks are now on the clock.
What wait, looks like both war rooms are feverishly back on the phones. I think that means a trade is coming.
The Cowboys are now on the clock. The Redskins are now on the clock. The Chargers are now on the clock.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a trade.
The Dolphins are now on the clock.
Hold on now. This pick is trading teams.
The Bears are now on the clock. The Giants are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock. The Steelers are now on the clock. The Dolphins are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are now on the clock. All right, now that the pick's in, let's go to Adam. Adam, what can you tell us about this guy?
Well, he had a brief scare in the offseason, and I'm sure it scared a few teams out there as well. The combine ended abruptly for him after an undisclosed heart condition was discovered during a routine medical exam. Officials held him out of workouts and asked that he consult a specialist. Unable to perform any drills, he did stay at Indy and interviewed with each team. Following the combine, he visited a specialist and had surgery to correct the issue. I spoke with his agent, who was confident that it was an abnormal circumstance, and he assured me it wouldn't affect his play. Clearly, the GM was not concerned with this incident either.
The Colts are now on the clock.
How come nobody's at the podium? That's because both teams are right now working on a trade.
The Texans are now on the clock. The Bills are now on the clock. The Jaguars are now on the clock. The Bears are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock. The Bills are now on the clock. The Packers are now on the clock. The Rams are now on the clock. The Chargers are now on the clock.
I see both teams filling out cards. You know what that means? We've got a trade.
Let's go to Adam Schefter now, who's got more to say about the Lions' latest pick.
In a surprise move during the season, he left the team, citing personal reasons for the decision. From some of the reports I've heard, it sounds like he had some family issues that he really wanted to settle before the draft. His coach and teammates didn't hold any ill will against him and actually seemed supportive in his decision. He mentioned to several teams during the combine interviews that he felt a burden lifted off his shoulders and now he can really focus on football. Despite missing a lot of his senior year, I like this kid a lot, and I think he'll do fine for this team.
Pick's been made. Let's go to Adam Schefter to hear more about the player.
This is a player that draft experts really didn't start talking about until the tail end of the season. The biggest topic of discussion was where the sudden change in production came from. I talked to his college position coach, and he told me that a nagging injury slowed him down early in the season. You can clearly see he favored one side over the other when he was put out on the field or even walking on the sidelines. After he was benched for a few weeks, he came back and played at a much higher level. Even so, some teams were still cautious and did a thorough medical examination at the combine to be sure he was completely recovered. The results must have been positive for the team to have just drafted him now. As long as he can stay healthy, I really like what he brings to this team.
The Panthers are now on the clock. The Raiders are now on the clock. The Browns are now on the clock. The Colts are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock. The Cowboys are now on the clock.
Well, if you're wondering what the delay is, I think we've got a trade coming here.
Adam, what can you tell us about the Raiders' newest player?
Coming into the season, several scouts had him ranked as the top linebacker prospect entering the draft, and what followed was a flurry of media attention. The constant distractions looked to have taken their toll on him as he struggled to put together consecutive strong performances throughout the entire season. This inconsistency had him all over the experts' draft boards on a week-to-week basis. Even Todd McShay wasn't immune to the ranking roller coaster, having him anywhere from the number 2 to the number 10 linebacker available. This pick will be looked at as a bit of a gamble until he's able to prove he has the mentality it takes to turn in great performances on a week-to-week basis.
Our very own Adam Schefter has more to say about this pick.
When I ask scouts around the league what his biggest asset is, they always point to his father. His dad is a high school coach that knows how to consistently finish in the top of the school's division. And ever since he was able to walk, he's been on the sidelines for every game. Even after he leaves practice at night, he's still getting advice from his dad at home. And from what I've heard from scouts who've watched him play, you can tell the extra coaching has helped. Even during interviews at the Combine, I was told by several GMs that he was one of their favorite players to talk to. He has his dad's eye for the game, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him become a coach one day himself. I like him a lot, and he'll be a great addition to the team.
The Giants are now on the clock. The Colts are now on the clock. The Vikings are now on the clock. Falcons pick is in. Adam, give us the rundown.
There isn't a strict dress code on a player's pro day.